People once said this, that the Nordic Lions had gone 27 years without knowing the taste of a World Cup. That a team like Norway would have little to hope for. That Erling Haaland would struggle to appear at major tournaments. Gattuso said it was unfair to win 6 matches and still not earn a direct spot at the World Cup. But they didn't realize that their group was one they could absolutely advance from. Norway destroyed everything. They won all 8 out of 8 matches, scored 37 goals, and turned every opposing team into target practice. Italy was no exception. At San Siro, Norway did what European football had been waiting more than 2 decades for. They returned to the World Cup by crushing Italy's ambitions, right at a stadium that may soon fade into the past. The 4-1 victory was a statement that Norway are no longer a phenomenon. They played like a team already familiar with the World Cup, not like one that had been absent from the tournament since 1998. The match at San Siro started at a moderate pace, as both teams understood that the pressure didn't come from scoring many goals, but from not making mistakes. Italy played with a nothing-to-lose mentality. They knew their chances of catching up with Norway were nearly zero. But they still wanted to send a message that the Gli Azzurri never give up. And indeed, the opening minutes were theirs. Federico Di Marco, considered the main creative source of the Gli Azzurri, constantly pushed forward and delivered early balls into the penalty area. In the 11th minute, after a mistimed press from Ryerson, Di Marco stole the ball and squared it for Pio Esposito, who quickly turned and finished immediately, a swift, cold-blooded strike. Donnarumma raised his hands in celebration. Gattuso shouted with excitement. Italy led 1-0. And the atmosphere at San Siro became more electric than ever. Perhaps it was crazy to think of erasing a 9-goal difference. But the Italians had a flicker of hope. But after conceding, Norway remained as calm as a team in control. They didn't push the tempo too high. Instead, they circulated the ball steadily, looking for ways to make Italy reveal their own gaps. Alexander Sorloth had the first shot at the start of the second half. The ball went slightly over the bar, but it was a clear warning. By this point, Italy were beginning to lose control of the midfield. Norway's one-touch combinations were becoming more and more precise. Antonio Nusa, the standout player of the second half, started producing multiple one-on-one situations, forcing Italy's defense to drop deeper than they had planned. The equalizer came in the 63rd minute. Exactly as expected in a match where Norway had applied pressure long enough. Sorloth laid the ball off intelligently to the left wing. Nusa received it, pushed forward on a slightly diagonal run, then suddenly fired hard toward the near post. The ball took a slight deflection off Politano, leaving Donnarumma helpless. The whole stadium fell silent at 1-1. The match had turned. Italy tried to recover, sending more long balls forward toward Esposito and Politano. But those passes no longer had sharpness. Meanwhile, Norway accelerated with ruthless intent. In the 78th minute, from Oscar Bob's cross, Haaland stepped back half a stride and struck a left-footed volley into the ground, leaving Donnarumma no time to react. A goal carrying the full signature of a penalty box monster. Less than a minute later, Italy's defense shot themselves in the foot. Bastoni lost the ball to Thorsby. The Norwegian midfielder burst forward like an arrow, then squared the ball for Haaland, who only had to tap it in. 3-1. Gattuso turned away on the touchline, unable to believe how quickly the collapse had happened. Italy pushed forward in desperation. Scamacca turned and shot inside the box, but Hegem blocked it. Politano curled a shot that grazed the outside of the post, but it was all merely resistance. Norway played like a team far too familiar with finishing matches, and they truly did. In the 90+3 minute, Jørgen Strand Larsen, who had just come on, beat Mancini and fired a decisive diagonal shot to make it 4-1. Italy bowed their heads. Norway embraced in celebration. And San Siro, a stadium that has witnessed so many Italian football tragedies, witnessed yet another bitter night. Norway officially secured a World Cup berth for the first time in 27 years thanks to a convincing 4-1 victory over Italy. Meanwhile, Italy, a team that has already missed the last 2 World Cups, will have to enter the playoffs. Since their 2006 championship, Italy's only World Cup win came from a group stage match against England in 2014. In fact, after this loss, the Italians don't need to be overly stressed or negative. Quite simply, this is the level of their current strength. At this moment, they are not as strong as Norway. The European World Cup qualifiers only allow one team to go directly. Italy having to play the playoffs is something they must accept. And who knows, this may actually be good for the Gli Azzurri. If Italy were to be eliminated completely, then that would be another matter. But remember, Gattuso has not been in charge for long, and their recent impressive run was only the beginning. More importantly, the fighting spirit, the DNA that the former AC Milan player has always possessed, must be instilled even deeper into this team. And the playoffs will be the true test of whether that spirit has really seeped into the Italian squad. A series of do-or-die matches like those will be the real challenge to Gli Azzurri's ambition and strength. If Italy make it through the playoffs and earn a World Cup ticket, that would be a worthy comeback, a statement that they can rise after failure. And it would give them a huge boost for next summer's World Cup. Squad-wise, Italy are not an extraordinary team, but they are far from weak. They simply need time to become a complete unit. Under Gattuso, the Italian national team feels like a side trying to rebuild itself while still carrying the scars of 2 consecutive missed World Cups. European media describe that Gattuso has come not only to coach, but to clean up, from mentality to tactics. His first goal is to restore the family feeling within the squad. After years in which Italy's dressing room was considered fragmented, he wants every training session to have a spirit of unity. Anyone who wears the Azzurri shirt must feel real responsibility and pride. Analysts describe his style as not flashy, not overly artistic, not too complicated, but requiring every player to work at high intensity, especially during transitions. Under Gattuso, the full backs are not allowed to push too high without cover. And the midfield must maintain a tight structure to avoid the gaps Italy often showed after Euro 2020. Another major change came in the match against Moldova. Gattuso rotated more than half the squad, using many young players and giving opportunities to less experienced names, something past coaches were often hesitant to do. This approach shows he wants to rejuvenate Italy with more youth, more energy, and a readiness to remove comfort zones if players cannot meet the demands. As for Norway, they deserve to be the dark horse of next year's World Cup. Not just of these qualifiers. One could say they are entering the golden age of Norwegian football. Led by Erling Haaland. Haaland ended the qualifying campaign with 16 goals in 8 matches, double the tally of the players tied for second place in Europe, Arnautovic, Harry Kane, and Memphis Depay, all with 8 goals. The Manchester City striker will now finally appear in a major international tournament for the first time in his career. At age 25, Haaland is already the greatest scorer in Norway's national team history. In October, he became only the 6th player in world football history to reach 50 international goals before playing 50 matches. His brace against Italy raised his Norway tally to 55 goals in 48 matches. 12 consecutive qualifying campaigns had ended in disappointment. But now, the long, endless wait to appear in a major tournament has finally ended. Norway will be at the World Cup next summer after overcoming a giant like Italy in Group 1, and this success is no accident. This is a young, talented generation thriving under coach Ståle Solbakken. Haaland is the iconic goalscorer who never stopped scoring throughout the qualifiers. While Arsenal captain Martin Odegaard will return to lead the team at the World Cup. Squad depth is emerging too. Young players like Oscar Bob and Antonio Nusa have made Norway one of the strongest European teams at the moment. Israel coach Ran Ben Shimon, whose team Norway thrashed last month, even said that only Spain can compare to Norway right now. After countless missed chances, this will be just Norway's 4th World Cup appearance, and their first since 1998 when Italy eliminated them in the round of 16. This explosive, goal-laden qualifying campaign feels like a sweet debt repaid after 28 years. In the early stages of assembling the current squad, things were not as smooth as they are now. They had many stars but struggled with fitting the team together. Individuals lacked chemistry, their play lacked cohesion, and their effectiveness was not high. But time changed everything. Years of playing together helped the pieces gradually fit. They understood each other more. And once each element stepped into its proper role, the machine called Norway began operating with devastating firepower. A huge part of this lies with coach Ståle Solbakken. If Norway were once seen as a team with a few good names but lacking unity, he is the one who infused them with fighting spirit, fire, and a sense of sacrifice for the collective. Solbakken turned them into a real team, not just a group of good players standing next to each other. This squad carries a very different spirit compared to previous Norwegian generations, confident, cold-blooded, and unafraid of big names or overwhelming pressure. They conceded first but did not collapse. Instead, they played even more composed and punished their opponents with brilliantly organized sequences down to every stride. Many teams have superstars but crumble in the supporting cast. Norway are the opposite. The whole collective is excellent, improving together, and everyone understands their exact role. Haaland simply finishes the work the entire team creates, and that is what makes Norway terrifying. They are not a team dependent on Haaland. They are a team built to force Haaland to score.